Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the very people you've known your whole life, your family, might be holding you back from your true potential. It sounds crazy, right? But for some people, those we call the chosen ones, this is their reality. Being spiritually awake often means making tough choices. One of the hardest? Stepping away from your family. But it's not what you think. There's more to this story than meets the eye. You might be wondering, why would anyone need to break up with their family? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. It's a journey that many spiritually awakened individuals find themselves on, and it's not an easy path. But sometimes, the most difficult roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. Think about it like this. Have you ever felt like you were meant for something more, something bigger than your current life? Like there's a voice inside you, urging you to grow, to change, to evolve? If you have, you might be one of the chosen ones. And if you are, you might find that your family, as much as you love them, doesn't always understand or support your spiritual journey. Now, you might be thinking, so what? Can't I just ignore my family's lack of understanding and go on with my spiritual growth? And that's a fair question. But here's the thing. If chosen ones don't take this step of creating some distance from their families, they risk stunting their spiritual growth. It's like trying to grow a delicate plant in the wrong kind of soil. It just won't thrive. When you're on a spiritual journey, every interaction, every relationship, every environment affects you. It's like you're a sponge, soaking up energy from everything and everyone around you. And if the energy from your family is constantly pulling you back into old patterns, old ways of thinking, old versions of yourself, it becomes incredibly hard to move forward. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while someone keeps tugging on your backpack, pulling you back down. That's what it can feel like for chosen ones who are trying to grow spiritually while staying deeply enmeshed with family members who don't understand or support their journey. It's exhausting, it's frustrating, and ultimately, it can prevent you from reaching your full potential. But it's not just about the chosen ones themselves. This matters on a bigger scale too. You see, chosen ones often have a purpose, a mission to fulfill in this world. They're here to bring light, to raise consciousness, to help others awaken. And if they can't fully step into their power and purpose because they're held back by family dynamics, the whole world misses out on the gifts they have to offer. So, while it might seem selfish at first glance to step away from family, it's actually an act of service, both to yourself and to the world. It's about creating the space you need to grow, to become the person you're meant to be, so you can then turn around and help others do the same. Now, let's talk about who these chosen ones really are. Don't worry, we're not talking about some elite group of superhumans or anything like that. The term chosen ones simply refers to individuals who've experienced a spiritual awakening. They're people who've started to see beyond the surface level of life, who've begun to question the status quo and seek deeper meaning. Chosen ones come in all shapes and sizes. They could be your neighbor, your coworker, or even you. Age doesn't matter. You could be a teenager or in your 70s when you start to awaken. What matters is the inner journey, the shift in consciousness that happens. So, what does it feel like to be a chosen one? Well, it often starts with a sense of not quite fitting in. You might feel like you see the world differently from those around you. Maybe you've always been the odd one out in your family, the one who asks the questions no one else seems to be asking. Chosen ones often feel a deep pull towards spiritual or metaphysical topics. They might find themselves drawn to meditation, energy work, or alternative healing practices. They're usually the ones with a shelf full of self-help books, always seeking to understand themselves and the world better. Another common trait of chosen ones is a strong sense of empathy. They often feel others' emotions deeply, sometimes to the point where it can be overwhelming. This sensitivity can be both a gift and a challenge, allowing them to connect deeply with others, but also leaving them vulnerable to taking on others' emotional burdens. Chosen ones also tend to have a strong sense of purpose, even if they're not always sure what that purpose is. They feel like they're here to do something important, to make a difference in the world somehow. This can sometimes lead to feelings of frustration or impatience, especially if they feel stuck in situations that don't align with their sense of purpose. It's important to note that being a chosen one doesn't make someone better than anyone else. It's not about superiority. It's simply a different path, a different way of experiencing and interacting with the world. Everyone has their own journey, and no path is inherently better or worse than another. For chosen ones, the spiritual journey often feels like a calling they can't ignore. It's like a persistent tug on their soul, urging them to look deeper, to question more, to seek truth beyond what they've been taught. This journey can be beautiful and fulfilling, but it can also be challenging, especially when it comes to navigating relationships with family members who might not understand or support this path. And that's where the real challenge begins. Because for many chosen ones, the very environment that shaped them, their family, can become the biggest obstacle to their growth. It's not because their families are bad people or don't love them. It's simply because the family system often represents the old paradigm, the old way of thinking and being that the chosen one is trying to move beyond. This is where the idea of breaking up with family comes in. But remember, it's not about cutting ties or turning your back on your loved ones. It's about creating the space you need to grow, to become who you're meant to be. It's about setting boundaries that allow you to honor your journey while still maintaining connections with your family. In the next sections, we'll dive deeper into why this separation is sometimes necessary, what it really means to break up with your family, and how to navigate this challenging but often transformative process. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to leave your family behind. It's to become the fullest, most authentic version of yourself, so you can show up in all your relationships, including family ones, from a place of true empowerment and love. Let's talk about family. For most of us, family is where we learn about love, about the world, about ourselves. It's supposed to be our safe haven, our support system. But for chosen ones, family relationships can get complicated. Think about it. You're going through this massive spiritual shift. You're questioning everything you've ever known, seeing the world with new eyes. And there's your family, still operating in the same old ways, still holding on to beliefs and patterns that you're trying to move beyond. It's like you're speaking a whole new language, and they can't understand a word you're saying. It's not that your family doesn't love you. In most cases, they love you deeply. But love doesn't always equal understanding. Your parents might worry that you're getting involved in something weird or dangerous. Your siblings might roll their eyes when you talk about energy or consciousness. Your grandparents might insist that you just need to snap out of it and get back to normal. This clash between your new spiritual awareness and your family's traditional viewpoints can create a lot of tension. You might find yourself censoring what you say around them, hiding parts of yourself to keep the peace. Or maybe you try to explain your new insights, only to be met with blank stares or outright dismissal. Over time, this dynamic can really wear you down. It's exhausting to constantly feel misunderstood or judged by the people who are supposed to be your biggest supporters. You might start to doubt yourself, wondering if maybe they're right and you're just going through a phase. Or you might feel angry and resentful, frustrated that they can't see what's so clear to you. But here's the thing. Your family's reaction isn't about you. It's about them. It's about their own fears, their own limited beliefs, their own resistance to change. They might be afraid of losing you, or they might be uncomfortable with the idea that there's more to life than what they've always believed. Understanding this doesn't make it any easier in the moment, but it can help you approach the situation with more compassion, both for your family and for yourself. So, how do you know when it's time to create some distance between you and your family? It's not always an easy decision, but there are some signs that can help you recognize when it might be necessary for your spiritual growth. First, pay attention to how you feel after spending time with your family. Do you feel drained, irritable, or anxious? Do you find yourself slipping back into old patterns or behaviors that you've been trying to change? If being around your family consistently leaves you feeling depleted rather than supported, it might be a sign that you need some space. Another sign is when you find yourself constantly in conflict with your family over your beliefs or choices. If every conversation turns into an argument about your spiritual path, or if you feel like you're always defending yourself, it can create a toxic environment that hinders your growth. Watch out for signs of gaslighting or manipulation. If your family members are dismissing your experiences, telling you that you're imagining things, or trying to convince you that your spiritual journey is just a phase or a mistake, it's a red flag. Your spiritual experiences are valid, and you deserve to have them respected even if not everyone understands them. Pay attention to your own growth. Are you holding yourself back from fully exploring your spiritual path because you're worried about what your family will think? Are you avoiding practices or experiences that call to you because you know your family wouldn't approve? If you're stunting your own growth to keep the peace, it might be time to create some boundaries. Lastly, trust your intuition. As a chosen one, you're likely developing a strong sense of inner guidance. If something deep inside you is saying that you need space from your family to grow, listen to that voice. It's often your higher self trying to guide you towards what's best for your evolution. Remember, recognizing the need for space doesn't make you a bad person or mean that you don't love your family. It's about honoring your journey and creating an environment where you can thrive. Now, let's clear something up right away. When we talk about breaking up with your family, we're not talking about cutting them out of your life completely. We're not advocating for burning bridges or slamming doors. What we're really talking about is creating healthy boundaries. Boundaries are like invisible lines that define where you end and others begin. They're not walls to keep people out, but guidelines that help you protect your energy, your growth, and your peace of mind. For chosen ones, setting boundaries with family is often a crucial step in the spiritual journey. So what does this look like in practice? Well, it might mean limiting the time you spend with family members who drain your energy or constantly criticize your choices. It could mean changing the way you communicate, being more selective about what you share about your spiritual experiences. It might involve saying no to family events or traditions that no longer align with your values or beliefs. Creating boundaries also means getting clear about what you will and won't accept in terms of treatment. If a family member is disrespectful of your path, you have the right to speak up and set limits on those interactions. This doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you love yourself enough to protect your spiritual well-being. It's important to remember that setting boundaries is not a punishment for your family. It's not about trying to change them or force them to see things your way. It's simply about creating the space you need to be true to yourself and your path. This process can be challenging, and it's okay if it feels uncomfortable at first. Many of us, especially those from cultures that place a high value on family ties, might feel guilty about setting boundaries. You might worry that you're being selfish or that you're letting your family down. But here's the truth. By setting healthy boundaries, you're actually doing what's best for everyone involved. You're creating the conditions that allow you to show up as your most authentic self, which ultimately benefits all your relationships, including those with your family. Think of it like this. On an airplane, they always tell you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Why? Because if you run out of oxygen yourself, you won't be able to help anyone else. The same principle applies here. By taking care of your spiritual health, by creating the space you need to grow and thrive, you're actually putting yourself in a better position to be there for your family in the long run. And who knows? Your family might surprise you. Sometimes, when we start setting healthy boundaries, it creates an opportunity for growth and change on both sides. Your family members might start to see the positive changes in you and become more open to understanding your path. Or they might not, and that's okay too. Your growth isn't dependent on their understanding or approval. Remember, breaking up with your family in this context is really about breaking free from old patterns, expectations, and dynamics that no longer serve you. It's about creating a new, healthier relationship with your family, one that honors both your love for them and your commitment to your spiritual growth. This process takes time, patience, and a lot of self-compassion. There might be moments of doubt, moments of conflict, moments when you wonder if you're doing the right thing. But keep listening to that inner voice, that spiritual guidance that's leading you on this path. Trust that by honoring your truth and creating the space you need to grow, you're not just serving yourself, you're serving your highest purpose. In the next sections, we'll explore the benefits of creating this distance, how to deal with the guilt that might come up, and how this process can actually lead to rebuilding stronger, more authentic relationships with your family. Because remember, the goal here isn't to leave your family behind. It's to become the fullest, most authentic version of yourself, so you can show up in all your relationships, including family ones, from a place of true empowerment and love. The benefits of distance, growing into your true self. When you first start creating some distance from your family, it might feel strange, even a bit scary. But as time goes on, you'll likely start to notice some powerful benefits. This space you're creating, it's not just empty distance. It's fertile ground for your spiritual growth. One of the biggest benefits you might experience is a sense of freedom. Freedom to explore your spiritual path without judgment or interference. You'll be able to meditate, practice energy work, or dive into spiritual texts without worrying about raised eyebrows or critical comments. This freedom allows you to really sink into your practices, to experiment and find what truly resonates with you. Another major benefit is the opportunity to discover who you really are, outside of your family's expectations and beliefs. We all absorb so much from our families, beliefs about the world, about ourselves, about what's possible. When you step back, you get to question these inherited beliefs and decide for yourself what feels true. It's like finally being able to hear your own voice clearly, without all the background noise. You might also find that your intuition gets stronger. When we're constantly surrounded by other people's opinions and energy, especially from those as close to us as family, it can be hard to distinguish our own inner guidance. Creating some space allows you to tune into your intuition more clearly, to really feel what's right for you. This distance can also lead to some major personal growth. Without the familiar patterns and roles of your family dynamic, you're free to evolve in new ways. You might discover strengths you never knew you had, or finally shed some old habits that have been holding you back. Many chosen ones find that this period of distance leads to a deeper understanding of themselves and their purpose. It's like clearing away the fog and finally being able to see the path ahead. You might gain clarity about your life's mission, or uncover gifts and abilities that were previously hidden. Interestingly, creating this space can also lead to better self-care. When we're deeply enmeshed with family, we often put our own needs last. But as you create boundaries and prioritize your spiritual growth, you'll likely find yourself taking better care of your physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Remember, all of these benefits aren't just for you. As you grow and evolve, you become better equipped to help others on their own journeys. Your increased clarity, strength, and spiritual connection ripple out, positively affecting everyone you interact with, including, eventually, your family. Now, let's talk about something that many chosen ones struggle with when they start creating distance from their families: guilt. It's a heavy feeling, isn't it? That nagging voice that says you're being selfish, that you're hurting the people who love you. First things first, it's completely normal to feel this way. We're taught from a young age that family comes first, that we should always be there for our loved ones. So when we start prioritizing our own spiritual growth, it can feel like we're going against everything we've been taught. But here's the thing. Guilt is not a helpful emotion in this situation. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve your family either. Guilt keeps you stuck, prevents you from fully embracing your path, and can even lead to resentment over time. So how do we deal with this guilt? It starts with self-compassion. Remind yourself that you're not creating this distance to hurt anyone. You're doing it because it's necessary for your growth, which ultimately benefits everyone. You're not being selfish. You're taking care of yourself so that you can show up more fully in all your relationships. It can be helpful to reframe the situation. Instead of thinking, "I'm abandoning my family," try, "I'm honoring my spiritual journey." Instead of, "I'm being selfish," think, "I'm practicing self-care." This shift in perspective can make a big difference in how you feel about the situation. Another powerful tool for dealing with guilt is to connect with your why. Why is this spiritual journey important to you? What are you hoping to achieve or become? When you're clear about your reasons, it's easier to stand firm in your decisions, even when guilt tries to creep in. Remember, too, that your family's reactions, including any attempts to make you feel guilty, are about them, not you. They might be acting out of fear, confusion, or their own unresolved issues. While it's important to be compassionate towards them, you don't have to take on their emotions as your own. Lastly, don't be afraid to seek support. Connect with others who are on a similar journey. Join spiritual groups or find a mentor who understands what you're going through. Having a support system can make a world of difference when you're dealing with difficult emotions like guilt. As you continue on your spiritual journey and become more grounded in your authentic self, you might find that your relationships with your family members start to shift. This is where the real magic can happen. With the space you've created and the personal growth you've experienced, you're now in a position to rebuild your family relationships on a new foundation, one of mutual respect, understanding, and authentic connection. This rebuilding process often starts with you. As you become more secure in yourself and your path, you'll likely find that you're able to interact with your family from a place of greater peace and compassion. You're no longer seeking their approval or trying to change them. Instead, you can accept them as they are, while still maintaining your boundaries. You might find that you're able to communicate more clearly and calmly about your spiritual journey. Without the charge of constant close contact, you can choose when and how to share aspects of your path with your family. Some might become curious and open to learning more. Others might still not understand, but may come to respect your choices more. It's important to remember that this rebuilding process takes time. It's not about forcing a sudden, complete understanding. It's about gradually creating a new dynamic where everyone's individuality is respected. You might find that your relationships become more authentic. Without the pressure to conform to old family patterns, you can relate to each other as the individuals you truly are. This can lead to deeper, more meaningful connections. Some chosen ones even find that their spiritual growth inspires changes in their family members. As they see the positive effects of your journey, some might become more open to exploring their own spirituality. But even if they don't, your growth can still positively impact the family dynamic. Remember, rebuilding doesn't mean going back to the way things were. It means creating something new, relationships that honor both your family bonds and your individual paths. It's about finding a balance between staying true to yourself and maintaining loving connections with your family. As we wrap up our exploration of why chosen ones sometimes need to break up with their families, let's take a moment to reflect on the bigger picture. This journey of awakening, of creating boundaries, of growing into your authentic self, it's not an easy one. It takes courage, strength, and a deep commitment to your truth. But it's also a journey of profound transformation, not just for you, but potentially for your entire family system. Remember, creating distance from your family isn't about rejection or abandonment. It's about creating the space you need to grow, to become who you're meant to be. It's about breaking free from patterns and expectations that no longer serve you, so that you can step into your power and purpose. As you navigate this path, be gentle with yourself. There will be challenges, moments of doubt, times when the guilt feels overwhelming. But there will also be incredible breakthroughs, deep insights, and a sense of freedom and authenticity that you might never have experienced before. Trust in your journey. Trust in the voice that's guiding you towards growth. You're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing it for everyone whose lives you'll touch with your increased awareness and spiritual gifts. And who knows? The very act of you honoring your path might open doors for healing and growth within your family that you never thought possible. By becoming the fullest, most authentic version of yourself, you're giving your family members permission to do the same. So step forward bravely, chosen ones. Create the space you need. Set those boundaries. Do the inner work. And trust that as you do, you're not just transforming your own life. You're playing your part in the bigger transformation of consciousness that our world so desperately needs. Your journey matters. Your growth matters. And by honoring that, you're creating ripples of change that extend far beyond yourself. Keep going, keep growing, and know that on the other side of this challenge lies a life of authenticity, purpose, and deep, genuine connection. With yourself, with others, and with the universe itself.